Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it's an ever fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It's the star to every wandering bark whose world is unknown, although his hide were taken. Love is not time's fool, though rose leaves and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass calm. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the age of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never read, nor no man ever loved. So this is Sonnet 116 by our very dear poet and dramatist William Shakespeare. Till date, resistances and oppositions to the canon notwithstanding, he is the crowning glory of English literature, we can say. Now, Shakespeare's sonnets are quite popular, and at the same time, they offer a different kind of perspective to the world which is different from his plays. Plays are more objective, while sonnet, you know, by the very fact that, by dint of the very fact that it is a lyric, you know, it gives a subjective worldview. However, there has been a prolonged and rather protracted controversy regarding the subjectivity and objectivity of Shakespeare's sonnets. If you ask me, I'll coincide with the former position that these are personal, subjective, very personal. Now, most of his sonnets, 154 in total, right? They are addressed to a young man, most of them, whom he deeply loved and possibly who was one of his mentors. So there is a clear homosexual or homoerotic angle involved, for which Shakespeare has been both famous and infamous. Now, there have been resistances also to this homoerotic reading, saying that, those who resisted, they want to say that during the Renaissance period in which the sonnets were written, there was a deep, there was a kind of value given to deep male-to-male friendship, which may not have been sexual. You may here refer to Bacon's essay on friendship. However, they should also remember that the Renaissance carries to the maximum the legacy of Greco-Roman cultures, where homosexuality, kind of between consenting adults, or rather one adult and one slightly younger, a mentor and a mentee kind, was more of a norm than an aberration. Now, most of the sonnets were addressed to this young man, W.H. In the introduction or dedication of the sonnets, Shakespeare had written to W.H., the only begetter of the sonnets. There are various versions. At one point of time, some people even also said that they refer to Shakespeare himself. Possibly you haven't heard that, because W.H. means William himself. Anyway, but that is more of a non-canonical version, let us say. Anyway, then there was this dark lady, after whose identity critics, researchers, sociologists, and historians have wasted a lot of their energy, or rather invested, we can say. Nothing goes waste in search of love. Love slavers lost, it never gets lost. And a rival poet. Anyway, I reminded you of this because now I will come to Sonnet 116, because this is different from all this, in that it attempts a definition of love. In fact, the anthology which I have consulted before just doing this, though I remember the poem mostly, but since it has been a long time, I got it by heart or got it into my memory. So I had to consult an anthology that is also famous. This is Golden Treasury by Palgrave. The edition that I am using, in that it is given the name True Love. Sonnets were generally not named. So, and Shakespeare's sonnets also follow this pattern. There will be a generic name of the series, like Astrophel and Stella by Sidney. So Shakespeare's sonnets, and they are known by their numbers, so sonnet 116, or sometimes you use the first line as the name of the poem. Let me not to the marriage of true minds, etc. Now, this is not about the young man, this is not about the dark lady, this is not about the rival poet, this is about true love, which is a subject of a prolonged discussion, maybe from time immemorial. I love you and you love me, this is probably the oldest story of human civilization, our consciousness, possibly even God and religion also came later, uh, for obvious reasons. Now, what is true love? Of course, here it is Shakespeare's subjective position. See, look at the very first line. It's subtle. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Impediments are the bans of marriage, so to say. In the Catholic churches, there was a practice that before marriage, even now this is followed, though in 1983, I think the Roman Catholic Church decided that it was no longer necessary, for the simple reason that these things are now done by the marriage registrar's office. Anyway, in the banns of marriage, the priest used to announce that these two will be tied in the holy, into the holy, not holy ritual. Does anyone know, or can anyone raise any objection as to why these two should not be united? Then, if their unfortunate some will stand up and say, yes, I know this person is already married, or that lady has already, I mean, has a husband elsewhere, that kind of thing. Do you understand? So now Shakespeare says, because the European Christian society is also like our current Hindu society, monogamous. Monogamy was not practiced even just 50 to 60 years back officially in Hindu society, at least caste Hindu society. But anyway, polygamy was there, though not polyandry. Polyandry in general Hindu society is not there, exceptions are there. Anyway, so that is the impediment of marriage. So Shakespeare says that if it is a marriage of true minds, he would admit of no impediments. So the meaning that we are getting is technical qualifications do not matter when there is true love at stake. But is he advocating a kind of profligacy then, by implication? Now the very next line problematizes it. Means true love you may get into without having technical qualifications, but once you are into true love, then you cannot shift. So, bands, it's an ever fixed mark, it never changes. It is like the pole star, whose oath is unknown, although his height be taken. It's the star to every wandering walk, Shakespeare says. Which star? This is the pole star. In those days, gadgets and other things were limited. No GPS was there. Compass was somehow in the picture. So mostly the navigations, especially maritime navigations, took help of the pole star to decide the course of their journey, to keep their directions correct. So love, true love, acts as a kind of pole star in life. This image comes in Tagore also. Tomarei koriyache jiboner dhrubo tara. It may not be accidental. Tagore was well read in Shakespeare. Correspondingly, in India and especially Hindu society, though pole star is kept as the symbol of fixity. That's why you call something is dhruvo, which means fixed pole star is dhruvo tara. Another pair of stars is shown after marriage, which is known as Boshishta Arundhati, especially Arundhati Darshan. This is not done these days because the priest cannot locate the star and not the couple, so this is just done through mantras, but otherwise this is very important, Boshishta and Arundhati. And in fact in Nyaya Shastra there is a kind of thing called Arundhati Darshan and Nyaya. So anyway, the Arundhati, by the way, is very difficult to find. So you show a star which is more visible next to Arundhati, then you lead to Arundhati. So that is Arundhati Darshan Nyaya. So anyway, we come to that pole star thing. So love is a fixed center of life, true love, which can hold you against many wears and tears, turbulences, vicissitudes, etc. So then love doesn't change. True love doesn't change with time. Love is not time's fool, though rosy leaves and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Rosy leaves and cheeks, sensuous imagery, youth. Youth doesn't stay for long. Though life may be long, youth is not very long. So youth may go. Time's bending sickle means time has a kind of sword-like thing in Renaissance medieval imagery. Time is often shown as a giant reaper who reaps all our harvests that we have gathered in life. Name, fame, money. Finally, we keep on gathering this, thinking that this will be endless. Finally, time comes as death, and with one stroke takes it away. But in fact, we can say time gives it also. The one which gives only takes it away. So time with Khargo, that Mahakal or Kali, that image, they're very similar. So in Shakespeare's sonnet, time appears as a giant reaper, and in other sonnets, he talks about how you can conquest time. It is by writing. True love, when celebrated in writing, remains forever. However, in this particular sonnet, he is more concerned with the eternal nature of true love. Again, his subjective view, which may be true, which may not be true. True love, it doesn't change with hours, days, or months, but bears it out even to the age of doom. Doomsday, that is the end, prologue, Qiyamah. That's why the very famous Bollywood love story was named Qiyamah Se Qiyamah Tak. All these have strong Shakespearean influences, not so much of the sonnets, but of particularly Romeo and Juliet. So, this is a remake of Romeo and Juliet actually, Qiyamah Se Qiyamah Tak. With songs and others are Indianized. I mean Indian things introduced. Papa kehte hai bada naam karega, etc. But it is basically a rewriting of Romeo and Juliet. To read Romeo and Juliet and watch Qiyamah Se Qiyamah, you will understand. So anyway, so Shakespeare is a great influence not only in the West but in the non-West too, and for all the right reasons, I think. Anyway, here he is saying that love continues eternally. We are very familiar with that. Going beyond this thing, Qiyamah Se Qiyamah Tak, there are other songs, where we talk about in India. Since we are Indians, Indian references will come. How we keep meeting our spouses for 7 births may not be a very promising idea for all. However, সাতো জনম etc. or চিরদিনই তুমি যে আমার যুগে যুগে আমি যে তোমারি. So it is like Sambhavami Yuge Yuge of Gita, so Avatarvad. So love is also kind of avatar. Of course, that is divine love, but anyway, profane love can lead to divine love. That is another theory. That is there both in Eastern and Western tradition. Anyway, so love is eternal. Rather, true love is eternal. So otherwise it is not true love. So love is not time's fool. So time cannot fool love. It continues. Yes, the physical aspects, outer aspects may continue, I mean, may be lost. We may lose our youth, beauty, but the heart still beats for the loved one. So, that kind of force is there in our love, and it is never ending. Now, the final challenge, Shakespeare says after giving all this thesis, that if this be error and upon me proved, I never read, no man ever loved. That is, if you can prove to me that this definition of love is wrong, I would say that I have never written anything and no man has ever loved anyone, which is impossible. This too, Shakespeare is a great writer, and possibly every man has loved. May not be true love, but love. Man here, of course, patriarchal language. It includes men, women, everyone. So that is, he is damn confident, Shakespeare, that you cannot disprove him in his definition of love. Coming to the subjective question, to give some critical input, William Wordsworth, another great poet, Shakespeare, Milton, Wordsworth, and we may say Eliot, if you leave out the Victorians, they are more or less the force. I would rather include Yeats. It's my canon in a way. Spencer, Shakespeare, Wordsworth, Browning, and Yeats are the five major poets, you can say. So, Wordsworth has said that in his praise of a sonnet, which was another poem, he said, with this key, scorn not the sonnet. So, with this key, Shakespeare unlocked his heart, Wordsworth claimed. But his next generation poet, Browning, said, did he? The less Shakespeare was he. That is, if Shakespeare did so, he is all the less. I mean, he is. He deserves little credit for that. He should not have done so. So we can see here how objectivity as a chosen or desirable criterion in poetry is already coming into the picture, though we find its official announcement with Eliot's tradition and the individual talent, impersonality in poetry, etc. But Browning, in a way, is a precursor. So, there have been controversies. Sidney Lee, for example, initially in an article, he had claimed that the sonnets were Shakespeare's personal experiences, based on his personal experiences. A few years later, in another write-up, he changed his entire theory and said that it is not personal at all. Here there is a queer slant to it. In between, what had happened is Oscar Wilde was tried for homosexuality and imprisoned. So, in order to exonerate Shakespeare from a possible charge of sodomy or pederasty or homosexuality, Lee made these changes. These are important historical anecdotes, though I often do not refer to critics. But anyway, I hope after watching this video, you will go back to Sonnet 116 with a different kind of outlook. That is, it is a definition of true love, and maybe try to come up with your own definition or try to find some ideology in it. That's up to you, related to my earlier lecture. Thank you so much.